was looking for. Let's try this again. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Stuff I Find Interesting. And that is Neon Beach with Fruit Punch. Now, Neon Beach has a lot of interesting songs. Songs like Sauerkraut. It's been a while. Why the Face? That's a good one. Pop Rocks. AITA, which stands for Am I the Asshole? So, clear this gentleman has a good sense of humor. We like his music. So, this week is a twofer, meaning 2 episodes in 1 week, because this is I actually had like 2 in 1, and then I chopped it up, and so this is like the last part, so I kind of want to do it and get it over with before the stuff is no longer interesting to me, which is what happens if I go too long. Suddenly it's not interesting, and I'm like, ugh. Without further ado, though, we're going to talk about things that are interesting still right now to me. And I just got home from work, so I'm still sort of decompressing a little bit. I'm bringing the ball down. We are going to start by talking about 9 United States states that you've probably never heard of. I know there's lots of smart people out there, so I'm sure some of you have heard of these states. But most of you maybe haven't. I know I haven't. So let's start with Franklin. Franklin was the state that was going to be kind of in between in present-day Tennessee, actually, and it was called Franklin. There was even a governor who was French. And in 1785, the settlers submitted his petition for statehood. So blah, 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 blah. It didn't happen. You can read more about it in the links. There will be more about Franklin. Morgana was next to Kentucky. And Morgana lay along the western banks of the Mississippi, named after Colonel George Morgan, an ambitious and opportunistic merchant and land speculator. So he was kind of like, hey, I'm going to buy all this land and make my own sort of country. I guess the Spanish got in the way of that one. Fredonia. Fredonia was going to be in part of Texas, apparently. It lasted 40 days. So Fredonia lasted for 40 days. And on an 1830 map of the United States, you can actually find it. It's in the eastern part of Texas. So that's kind of neat. Desiree, which would have been... I'm not very well prepared, am I? I guess it would have been the whole American West. Like, we're just going to call the whole American West Desiree. It's a very fancy name, Desiree. Stay tuned next month for a continuation of 5 more. I thought it was like the whole thing, and it's not the whole thing. What do you mean, more to come? Okay, so I lied. It was 4 states. There's 5 other states. I don't know what they are. I could probably look it up. I'm not gonna. Let's keep it moving. This is a cool picture that I found. Now, what I really found cool about this is that when I saw this, I had like a jolt of kind of like recognition. Like, wow, hey, that looks familiar to me. And I have this reoccurring dream where I'm forced to climb up over this mountain with a bunch of other people, and I have all my belongings. And the mountain looks very similar to this one. I don't think it is this one, but it looks similar to this one. But the part that I found interesting is that it's Palermo, which is where my dad's family's from. They are from Palermo. So who knows? Maybe they stood on this shoreline in the 1860s before they came here and looked at that mountain and said, "Gosh, that's a pretty mountain." Or maybe not. The next time you take a selfie, you can thank Martin Shamby, who was a photographer from the 1800s. This is one of the first selfies. I mean, like really professional selfies. There was lots of selfies like right before the 1920s, like the Art Deco period. People were messing around with cameras, and there was like you'd get pictures with like, you know, women would do like fairy photos, or they do photos of the dead, or like there were people were taking pictures of themselves. But this was like very much like on purpose. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to compose this shot. It's just very much ahead of its time. Now, the thing that's very cool about Shamby is that he had his own studio, and he charged rich people a lot of money to take their picture. But he used that money that he made to travel the world and to take picture of indigenous peoples. He was one of the first people to portray indigenous peoples, or people from other countries, people of other races, people of other religions, to portray them on an equal playing field, you know, to the modern man, so to speak. He just loved taking pictures of everyday people. His great achievement was to document daily life with all of its intricacies in a once traditional city undergoing rapid modernization. He photographed the largely Incan-descended elites as well as European and Asian immigrants to the city in his studio, and he used the money he earned there to buy the expensive glass plates to go out and take some more pictures. He befriended the beggars, the children, the chiqueras, the campesinos, the people in the market. He traveled far and wide around the southern Andes. He did not avoid or deflect his gaze from thorny social problems, and he excelled at staging the myriad ways colonialism taught us to disavow the profound oppression of indigenous communities. He teaches us to look and to see otherwise. Two photographs in particular illustrate how he made us aware of the colonizing gaze with its limitations and distortions. And I think this is one of the ones that they mean. Look at this incredible architecture. And then I guess that's the other one that they mean. Oh, it talks a little bit more about him, but I thought that was really cool. He was ahead of his time. So, Atlantis. Is it Antarctica? Was Antarctica Atlantis at one time? Now, I did read a couple days ago that there was a core sample that was driven into the ocean bed right around Antarctica, where you could still stick it into the ocean and hit the floor of the ocean. And what they pulled up were desert plants, or not desert plants, ocean plants. So at one point there was not ocean plants. That doesn't make any sense because it was the ocean. What was it that they freaking found? Oh, yeah. They found that it was very tropical and lush, and that there were layers of root systems and different types of soils and different types of microorganisms. My mind went blank in the middle of all that. It was pretty crazy. I mean, it just literally went blank. I'm glad I was able to grab it back. So this talks about why Atlantis might be in Antarctica. But wait. Ancient maps of Antarctica debunked. Maybe. Also, we are all idiots. So this is a site called Bad Archaeology. I like the bad archaeology sites. I like the conspiracy sites. I think they're a lot of fun. And this talks about, it kind of refutes the previous article. Both of these articles are really more included for you to read. But the two parts that are interesting are that there used to be a tropical forest in Antarctica. That is proven fact. And number two, there are maps that show Antarctica without its ice that match modern day LiDAR maps that show kind of what's underneath the ice. So those are fact. So make of that what you will. Failed to load PDF document. Let's try it again. This is mostly for you to look at. When it loads, then you can look at it. Can't look at it right now. There's not a whole lot to see. I'm a terrible whistler. Every once in a while, like I can whistle like really good, like once like a year. I'll whistle like a damn songbird, but most of the time I can't whistle very well. It's because I smile too much. These are lovely pictures of India. But the one I wanted to show you is this one. So this is Chalaya Cave at Ajanta. I can't tell if there's another letter there or not. Once again, immaculate preparation. But this is what our ancient ancestors were making. Our primitive ancient ancestors. Just incredible, incredible work. Here's a better picture of one of the caves. This is the Great Chaita Cave. And I think this is just, I think I've actually probably shared this before. I probably just share it all the time. I should just probably keep it in permanent rotation. But I mean, how cool is that? Very neat. I just brought those two things up because they're cool. No other real reason. I was looking up monuments, and I came across the Bismarck Towers, who are named after Otto von Bismarck. Here's a nice little article about the Bismarck Towers. And I said to myself, oh, who are they named after? Because obviously it's been way too long since I've been in social studies. Otto von Bismarck is the guy who basically united Germany. There were 39 different little sort of kingdoms, fiefdoms, whatever you want to call them. And he was like, bloop. And he looped them all up in the 1800s. And there were a lot of these built, and they were named after him. They were used as observation towers. And they were also kind of a monument to this guy who unified Germany. But what's interesting is that he is also he's the guy who basically laid the groundwork for both of the world wars, because he pissed everybody off as he was scooping up Germany. Obviously, that's I say obviously too much. I need to find other words to use besides obviously. I'm drawing a blank. He was probably not the only reason for World War II and World War I to happen. I mean, it wasn't just him. It wasn't just one guy. But he had a pretty major part, like a pretty big part. So he was hugely influential, both in a good way and a bad way. Now, one of the things I like the most when I'm searching around the internet is to find things that make people passionate. You know, stuff that gets people, they're like, ooh, that makes me so excited. And I have found that there are people who get very, very excited about bricks. And this is, let's see, we got a little historical background, but this is 18 months this person has had this website. And there have been 8,000 bricks that have been posted. And we have foreign bricks, photo gallery pages, links to other website, Isle of Man bricks, just bricks upon bricks. And this guy says, hey, send me your pictures of your bricks. So this gentleman's name is David. So David, I love that you're passionate about bricks. It's very cool. Many years ago, I found a house brick with a name on it. Nothing unusual. But then I found another, and I was hooked. On this website can be seen some of the fruits of my labors. My main interest is in the link that these bricks have to a bygone age and the vast variety of names which are displayed. Many works had only a short lifetime, and little of that was ever recorded. When the works closed, it was probably demolished immediately and the clay pit filled in, leaving little or no trace apart, that is, except for the brick with the name stamped on it, which could turn up hundreds of years later. Not hundreds. Could turn up hundreds of miles away from the location. I hope that this website helps to stimulate more interest in this fascinating hobby. Let's look at curiosities. I always like curiosities. What have we got? So we have some stuff that's made out of brick, but maybe not necessarily what we think of traditional brick. But there's some neat stuff to poke through. Now, there are also people in America who collect bricks. This is someone in Orchard Park, New York, which coincidentally my best friend was from Orchard Park. And she, that's in Buffalo, near Buffalo, New York. Very industrial. So you could understand how there could be a brick collecting in this area because there are so many. We have Native American bricks. This is just another cool site. So this is somebody else who's very passionate and excited about bricks and has devoted their time and energy to bringing this to us. I think that's very cool. So Orchard Park is here. Orchard Park. And my best friend, her name was Katie. She has since passed away. That is Katie. Katie and I had some wild times together. I gotta tell you. That was back in my ute. Sadly, she died from cancer. So try to get yourself screened. Get your annual physical. I'm talking like I do that and I don't. So, street lighting. Frangioso is very passionate about street lighting. He has collected, there's a new page that was just put up like last month. But we've got, let's go to page 9 and see what we've got. So this is just different types of street lights. Now you might say to yourself, well, it's freaking street light. Like, who cares? Well, it's actually kind of cool. I mean, if you can really kind of wrap your head around it, you've got sort of these variations in design in the covers and the bulbs, the way it attaches. I'm sure there's a myriad of differences, and if you're into that kind of thing, I could see it being very interesting. Look at that one. Look at that one. I've noticed a lot of these street lamps, too, are older, which makes it even more interesting because many of the older street lamps are being taken down in lieu of LED or whatever the hell they're using now. I think they've decided that that's not the way to go. I think we're doing green lights now. Does that sound right? Obsolete sounds. Let's pick a random sound. Do we hear it? I'm not really hearing it. Let's try another one. 3. The hell? That's not creepy at all. This isn't an intercom system. Let's try another one. Oh, shepherd singing to a sheep. That sounds fun. Okay. There you have it. So someone has become very passionate about obsolete sounds and put them into this quirky little kind of site. This is more for your information. I don't know if you know this, but there are 4 companies basically in the entire world that own all of the seeds in the world. Or maybe it's America. I don't know if it's America or the world. I think it might be America. 4 seed companies in America. So there's 4 seed companies mostly. So what does that mean for us, the consumer? It means that everything is generic. It means that stuff is created for longevity on, the shelves, and, growing as much as possible and extending the growing season and making it less, making it more drought resistant, things like that. So this particular website, which is a nonprofit, Seed Savers Exchange, it is all about exchanging seeds. And it's about keeping a lot of those heirloom varieties alive that are no longer commonly available. Now, some of you might say, well, what does that mean, heirloom? It means sort of the original plant, what it was like before it started becoming modified. And not necessarily that modification is a horrible thing, right? There are, through science and food, we've been able to feed a lot more people, grow a lot more food. So I'm not completely bumming on the agricultural industry. But at the same time, in the interests of that, I think we lose some of that beautiful diversity and flavor and history, and there's just this whole other category. So if you're into it, join up. Get those seeds you got from your Aunt Sally, right? Or those amazing cucumbers that she grew, or whatever. Now, we're getting into conspiracy land before we talk about art, and we're actually almost at the end. Although I am going to be talking about art today for just a little bit. This is Conspiracy Land, the fake history of Florida. So did you know that the history of Florida is fake? I did not know that. But in all seriousness, the person that creates this particular site does do a great deal of research, practical, real research, not research. And there are little bits of truth. And what I'm defining as truth is something that's provable, that we know for sure, like 100%. But what one can see by reading through this, whether you agree with it or not, is that clearly history in Florida goes back way further. So what happened is a modern man came to Florida and said, oh, this is Florida. This, we live here. This is, it's modern now. And there were people that were already living there, people that already had societies and even what you could even call cities in a way. And that all got washed away. So you can read this, you can bug out over it, figure out if you just, agree with it, don't agree with it. It's definitely a long read. Lots of eye candy. Lots of stuff you can go back and look up. So if you wanted to waste like a whole afternoon on this, you probably could. The thing that I find most interesting and the thing that I jive the most with is that this country's way older than we know or talk about or give credit for. And it's almost like we didn't exist until like the 1700s, right? Like, oh, it's America, we exist. Well, no, there was stuff going on before then. We just happen to be the latest iteration of society living in this particular place. Last conspiracy theory. Why do Bigfoot tracks suddenly end? So you got Bigfoot feet, Bigfoot feet, Bigfoot feet. And then they disappear. Well, where did they go? Where did the footprints go? This is a Reddit thread. Let's see what kind of answers we've got. Raptured to Big Feet Heaven. I knew it, says somebody. UFO beamed up. Most people in the sub are not ready for the answer to that question. Okay. Avid hunter. This person says that Sasquatch is covering their tracks. Just like a hunter would cover their tracks. They would walk, and if they thought they were being followed, they wouldn't continue onward. They would step back through the same tracks and then find an exit point, thus throwing the trackers off of their tail. Bigfoot is actually a wizard that hangs out in temples taking drugs. Excellent. Bigfoot can shapeshift. They vanish. They turn into balls of light. They teleport. They fly. They go into the trees. Lava tubes. It's a hoax. They climb into the trees. They're interdimensional. Acadian legend in North-South Canada? That doesn't make sense. Nova Scotia, Canada, describes a large ape that could disappear without a trace. There was never a follow-up, but there were many reports of it between 1730 and 1732 in Port Royal. This will be in the links. You can read it and bug out for a minute over what happens to Bigfoot when the footprints disappear. Okay, let's talk about art while we finish up. I'm going to put on some music, but I'm going to keep it low. There we go. Nice and low music. We're going to talk about sci-fi art. Sci-fi art. This is some cool stuff I found. Sci-fi art. So sometimes people might think, well, you know, art has already kind of like happened. Like when we talk about art, it's all stuff that happened before, you know, like the Mona Lisa, Van Gogh, whatever. You know, art is still happening right now, and art is still happening in ways that are very masterful and beautiful to look at. I'm particularly partial to sci-fi art, so I'm sharing this with you. This is an article, and this is what does the future look like according to sci-fi artists. I just want to show you my favorites. I like that one. I like that one. Although I tell you, if in the future I wake up and that's what I see and that's where I'm at, I'm going to freak the heck out. I like this one. So I don't know if anybody, if you still play phone games. I used to play phone games. I don't anymore. But there's a phone game called Monument Valley that has sort of this Escher-esque thing going on. It's a lot of fun to play. So, this article in the links for you to check out. Sci-fi art. Coolest sci-fi illustrators. Here we have Geiger. Vincent DeFate. It's a very 70s looking thing there. I remember going to the library and seeing all the covers of the books, the sci-fi books, and they all kind of had this sort of look to it. This one I'm particularly partial to. I think that's quite lovely. Her face is very luminous. This is probably my favorite. It's very... I mean, you got the little blood dripping off the finger. Like, did he kill the guy, or was the guy already hurt and he picked it up? Did the robot belong to the guy? Because the robot looks like maybe like he's kind of sad about it. Or maybe he accidentally killed the guy and he's sad about that. I don't know. This is sort of like Frank Magritte. That's a fun one. Lobsterman. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm just going to show you enough so that you can see some cool stuff. This one might be one of my favorites too. They're all kind playing cards. Whoa, no, stop. There we go. This is sci-fi art. This is a blog, someone's personal blog. And they post sci-fi art every day. We have Godzilla, Merlin, a lizard, flying lizard creature thing. So some cool art for you to look at. 70s sci-fi art. Another blog for you to check out. Like, look at that. That's pretty neat. It's very interesting. That's by Jim Burns. Science Fiction Archives. This is, we have eye candy. Sci-fi art that's eye candy. Did I pick eye candy? Hang on. I'm totally messing this whole thing up. There we go. So let's go here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, I would say that's definitely very impressive. So some of this stuff is not necessarily like acrylic paint or oil paint. It might be digital, but there's still a lot of talent, because you have to have a picture that's compelling, that's, you know, going to make you want to look. I don't know if any of you have seen the scientific or the sci-fi AI art, and there's something about it that's not quite right. It's a little chilly. In fact, some of the digital art that I see has that same sort of quality where it's sort of like, but most of it, like I look at this, it's pretty rad, right? Looks like we got like a whole kind of thing going on there. That's like a yurt. You guys know how I feel about yurts. I love the yurts. So hey, guess what? We are at the end. I don't really have a whole lot else to say. Except I hope everyone has a wonderful Monday evening. And I'll see you guys soon. And I'm going to be making some changes to stuff. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So hopefully you guys are happy I'm back. I know I'm happy I'm back. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye.